local government area. Now, the PRO revealed that the tactical teams led the operation in collaboration with other security agencies and with support from the local community. Now, the students who were rescued, of about 4 males, 1 female, their names, Prince London, Elizabeth Anite, Onyebuchi Precious, and London Samson. Now, the PRO added that the students have been taken to the hospital for medical checks, while efforts are ongoing to track down and arrest the fleeing abductors. Like always, not like always, I don't make it sound too basic and too pedestrian. But yeah, usually we get to hear that the abductors fled, and that's the scenario with this situation as well. The abductors fled, and the police is on the trail. Should I say on the tail? Can I say tail? Any which one. But yeah, they're chasing after the fleeing abductors who abducted the 5 students. And yesterday, while I was talking about this, because we talked about this during the big stories, I actually thought the houses were close to the campus. But reading the stories that popped up on different news platforms, I realized that it was what we call off camp in our local parlance. It was off campus where they were staying. So they were staying in one of the communities in the MOR local government area where the kidnapping happened. And so I'm still asking the same question, because now there are a lot of talks about whether the MOR campus should be relocated back to the main campus. And I'm wondering, is the community not welcoming? Is the community not ready to entertain visitors? Because that's one way development thrives. That's the biggest, if not, one of the biggest ways. Citing institutions like the River State University there, or citing businesses of some sorts. But what do I know? So that's my first big story. It's like a good news. The 5 abducted students have gained freedom. Remember also, if you recall vividly, that NOS, that's the Association for River State Students, had given an ultimatum that they would have been they would have been on the streets, they would have been on strike by Friday if the students were not released. But who are these abductors? Who are these people? I think if we begin to name names, if we begin to name sponsors and informants and all of that stuff, then just maybe we would have tackled security by 50%. And that's my thought, by the way. But I wonder what you're thinking about that. And talking about naming sponsors and people who finance insecurity in Nigeria, my next big story for today, I'm looking at the news and what is trending in the news. It has to do with terrorism, right? It has to do with terrorism, and it has to do with what the legislative arm of government is doing as it relates to terrorism. Now, the Senate, which is the upper chamber, like we call it, the red chamber, basically, the senators come out to say that kidnapping, financiers, and informants of kidnapping and terrorist activities would be sentenced to death. So you remember the guy who was given 20 years sentencing, for terrorism, right? And it caused a bit of a spike. I think it was about a few days before Nnamdi Kanu's sentencing to life imprisonment. Then, of course, there was that debate. I remember, was it Senator Shomole speaking up and saying, hey, why would one person get this and another? So we should make sure that, these people get death penalty, for their actions. And the senators decided, they're proposing that if you kidnap, like if student of River State University probably would be facing death penalty if caught. And so for all of you who are into the kidnapping business, just know that there's going to be a death penalty on your head if you're caught. Just so you know. And while this sounds like good news, while it sounds like good news, it got me thinking. What this means to me, or what I understand, is before now, the punishment for a terrorist is death if caught. Then how come we decided to give amnesty? Because for the people who came up with the law in the first place, who enacted the law years ago, for they to have done that, they understood the impact of terrorism and what it does to the people. They understood it, and so they say, you know what, if you do anything related to terrorism, then you go in for it with your life. You pay with your life. Even though there are arguments all over the world about the death penalty and all that stuff, what I cannot understand is how we decided to reintegrate these people back to society, giving once again the impact of terrorism. So I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if question, if proposing or making or enacting a new law will cause any change, because if there was a law in the first place and we're reintegrating terrorists into society instead of giving them the punitive measure associated with the crime they committed, I don't know if once again good law, kidnappers, the informants of kidnappers and terrorists, and even the people who finance these activities will get the death sentence. But hey, once again, this is Nigeria. But let's move to my third big story. This time, seemingly, is running very fast. And my third big story has got to do still with insecurity in Nigeria. We've been talking about America's pressure for what now, 2-3 months? The pressure by America on the Nigerian government to tackle insecurity in the northern part of the country. And a lot of us have got different, different opinions as to the pressure coming from America. Some are for, some are against. However, we've seen the government of Nigeria, go into action as it relates tackling insecurity in Nigeria. We've seen, certain moves once again by the presidency and in recent times by the legislative arm of government at the national level. And yesterday's screening for the Minister of Defense, General Musa, of course, is now the Minister for Defense. And in that screening, he came out and he said, see, we are no longer going to negotiate with terrorists. Yeah, we probably have done it in the past, is for certain reasons, but there will no longer be negotiations with terrorists. And the reason is simple, because these people use the money and regroup and finance the activities, and they come back stronger. And I said, oh, are you just realizing are you just realizing that? But anyways, the interesting thing is that the general was very tough, and he said that they were going to use technology and all that stuff to ensure that they tackle insecurity in the north. Now, as sweet as those words are or were, the army itself has come out to say that in a short time it would have flushed the insurgents from the northern part of the country. Yeah, so there are promises coming. Even the Senate's president, during the screen refused, to give General Musa or allow him to take a bow. Usually they would allow themselves to take a bow, because you have served there before, so you already, you've been screened. Or I don't know what the arguments usually are, but people take a bow, especially if they have served in that capacity or a similar capacity before. But in this situation, the Senate President Akpabio had to rant and talked about how America is pressuring Nigeria and how America is on the neck of Nigeria. And for that reason, General Musa cannot take a bow. He has to explain. He has to answer questions. And that's how we came with all of these narratives that, narratives that have made the news this morning up until now, talking about how we would no longer negotiate with terrorists. We would ensure the governors, local government chairmen no longer negotiate with terrorists. Sweet words. But I wonder if you believe those words. But more interestingly, do you think that the American pressure is, beginning to have or has positive effects? I know these are the big stories that make the round, and this is how I understand and how I am reacting to some of these big stories. But I want to hear from you how you're reacting and what your thoughts are as it relates to these big stories. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003, and 0817-923-0007. You can do WhatsApp messages 0809-0306416. Some people already sent in their WhatsApp message. I'm going to read a few of them. Palibot Taylor Harry says, good afternoon to you, Canada. My take on this is I congratulate the police swift intervention to dislodge the abduction of those students. Bravo to the police. All right, Palibot, thank you. And this one says, man of the people, defense minister said no more negotiations, ransom payments to terrorists. What I expect from the defense minister to say is no more kidnapping of innocent Nigerians. But thank God ability, you can't actually stop crime in total. It's impossible. Anyways, this one says, Sonny Didia from Umarelu. Good afternoon, Canada. Good one that the abducted students have been released. Some of us schooled outside River State, and we were off campus and walked freely all through our years of study without any form of molestation. Let this be the last time MOR campus of River State University should be on the news for kidnapping. They should know that their brothers and sisters are also in different parts of the country schooling. Odemegu Sonny Didia from Umarelu. And this one says, greetings, Canada. Felix in Sikan. Kudos to the government of River State and the security agency for the safe release of the RSU abducted students. Classifying kidnapping as an act of terrorism punishable by death will do nothing good to our security situation. The problem is not laws, but sincere enforcement. We have good laws, just system.